And we've got all the right in the world on our side. And there ain't no reason to be afraid. And there ain't no reason to not take the challenge dead on. Because I'm going to tell you who we come from, folks. We don't come from some weak, jellyback, spineless people. That's not who we come from. None of us. And it doesn't matter what color you are, what nation your folks hail from, how much money you got. We all share the same name. We are Americans. And at Bunker Hill, there was Americans. And at Fredericksburg and Gettysburg, there was Americans. And at Iwo Jima, raising that flag on Suribachi, it was Americans. And at Pork Chop Hill, there was Americans. Quezon, there was Americans. And on 9/11, there was Americans who ran towards those burning buildings. That is who you share your heritage with. You do not share your heritage with a weak and ineffective people who cower at the sight of trouble. You share your heritage with a strong and brave people who are determined to hold on to their freedom and for the freedom of future generations. Guys, it's time for us to stand up and be that generation. It's time for us to stand strong and proud and remember who we are. That we are Americans. And as long as we stand as the vanguard of freedom in this nation, freedom will survive people. Not only survive, it will thrive. So guys, it's time to put on our packs. It's time to fix those bayonets. It's time to get ready. We got a fight on our hands. And our fight is not for us, for all those generations that's going to come behind us. Let's save America, folks.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the program. I'm telling you, we're going to have a hell of a ride. We're going to have a hell of a ride in this broadcast. We're going to look at, hey, did the Rothschilds, you know, those Rothschilds, did the Rothschilds rewrite the Bible to favor Jews? Oh my God, the rewriting of the Bible. Okay, well, let me set myself so non-crooked here. Okay, so we're going to look at this. It's circulating all over social media. I'm going to ask you to follow along. You're probably going to want to take notes. Okay, you're probably going to want to take notes. This is exciting. I'm excited to share this with you because you know what? I'm going to treat you like an adult here as family and friends, and you're going to make your own decision. Right? You're going to make your own decision. And that's the way it should be, right? You shouldn't be told what to think. You should be able to discern on your own, know the facts, know the history, and then decide for yourself. And if you want to worship one-eyed, purple-helmeted warrior of love or toads, I don't care. That's your choice. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. Yeah, baby. Look, this is a serious issue. It really is. I want you to take it seriously because I want you to make sure that you, okay? I don't know how do I say this without saying it's just cover your ass, folks. How does it not make sense just to make sure you cover your hoo-hoo? Is there any circumstance you can think of in life where it's not in your best interest to cover your ass? I mean, it's a simple question. Is there anything to be ashamed of in working to decide what's right for you? Is there anything to be ashamed of in you not trusting our government? I don't think so. I think it's all should be you need to do what's right for you. So my job in all of this is to only help you. That's it. To only help you attempt to understand what the hell's going on. That's it. just to attempt to understand what's going on. And that goes down to your money. It is so painfully easy, right? Just go to JovanLovesGold.com. Now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver from my partners at Goldco. Just get the free quit. Why? Because I'm telling you something's coming. You don't have to believe me. But look, you can go back and audit, 5,000 hours of my work. I've never changed. I've always told you the truth. I've always been over the target. I've always gave you the head up. And I'm telling you again. And besides, you might qualify to get $10,000 in free silver. So please, as a family and friend here, just cover yourself. If you need a little release from all the stress that is going on, we still got this running with CB Distillery. 2 million people use CB Distillery. It's pure. No fluff, no fillers, just pure, effective cannabinoid products. I stayed away from it too long. It was stupid of me to do that. Don't do what I did. I could have been without pain for so long, and I screwed up. Just because of that word, cannabinoid. Cannabinoid, that's it. Just screwed up. Right? Don't do like I did. Use the promo code, get 25% off. Do it now. cbdistillery.com, cbdistillery.com. It's got a money-back guarantee. Why wouldn't you do it? For those of you on your phone, take a screenshot or snap a shot of it. The roll-on's the bomb. That's it. Ask people in chat. Use it if you have pain or you need sleep, right? You need to ease those muscular aches. You just need to calm sometimes. Don't suffer. You don't have to suffer. Okay. This is going to be a very interesting program. I absolutely promise you. You're going to want to take notes. Right? You're going to want to take notes on this one. And I am going to expand your brain. I'm going to put it, hey, what do I got here? Look at that. It's the sun. Right at the right angle. Right. Is our Heavenly Father realizing what's going on and shining the light on thee? It can only come through at an exact space in the studio. And there it is. Wow. That's cool. Can I tell you something? That event you're watching right here has never, ever 5,000 hours of broadcasting, any one of the locations, because all the sets are the same, has never, ever happened. Now that's interesting. I'm going to have to check that out, why that was able to happen. Anyway, folks, you're going to want to share this. Trust me, you're going to want to share this program. This is going to be a rocket ride, baby. Let's get started.
Warning. The following program has been rated Dilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd? Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Joe Von Hutton Pulitzer.
You know, guys, I'm stunned. I'm stunned. We've done this dance together for 5,000 hours. The odds of the sun being at that exact position, I have no idea why it's never happened before. Ever happened before. Wow. Just wow. I do not know what to tell you. I do not know what to tell you. Think about, we've done this season in, season out, year in, year out. What is different about this right now? Whew. Holy smokes. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. The premise is, and you watch me, and by the way, you watch me the same time every day. How does this just randomly happen? Okay. Weird. Now, you see all the stuff going on, and you know, you know that I am a Messianic Jew. No, there's no blinds where this is coming through. There are no blinds. It's just a solid state window that's always open, never covered. Technically a whole nother room away. A whole nother room away. I'm going to show you a video, okay? I'm going to show you a video. Somebody says, hey, is anybody in a position to check the stars? That'd be interesting. I'm going to show you a video that I have come across, and I have decided I'm going to do series on these because I think it's very important. I think that's where we are in history. So I want to show you a really cute girl. Yeah, really, really, really cute girl who's offering a 2-minute and 30-second educational piece or entertainment piece, whatever it is, to basically teach you about the Bible and what you need to know. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you the critical thinking path. But first, let me let you watch this, no interruptions.
The Rothschilds rewrote the Bible to force-feed Zionism to Christians. In 1909, the Oxford University Press published Schofield's reference Bible, despite him having little academic training. Who was Oxford's biggest Zionist donor? The Rothschilds. This edited Bible teaches that the Jews are the chosen people to reclaim the land of Israel, despite the immense human cost. This was psychological warfare to brainwash Christians, and it indoctrinated past generations to believe a lie. Now, before I go any further, this video is strictly for entertainment purposes only and is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. So, Zionism is a satanic movement that started in 1897 when a man named Theodor Herzl claimed that he was going to find the land that God promised the Jews. But there's just one little problem with this. Theodor Herzl was an atheist. He did not even believe that God existed. So how is a man that does not believe that God even exists going to find the land that God promised to his chosen people? This man is Satan in disguise. Zionism is imperialism, and it is devilish. It has gone and taken the lands of the Palestinian people, and through ethnic cleansing, terrorism, and a genocide, it has driven them out. And through that same terrorism, and with the backing of the United States government, it maintains its power. Once you understand that the founders of Zionism did not believe in God, it makes much more sense to you that they're able to mass murder people and actually claim that God wants them to do that. Oh, and by the way, Judaism originated in Africa. The first Jews in the world were African. Why do you think that DNA tests are banned in Israel? Well, surely it can't be because they don't want their citizens to realize that they're really not God's chosen people. So comment below and let me know, were you aware that the Rothschilds rewrote the Bible in 1909? And remember, this is strictly for entertainment purposes only.
Okay, entertainment purposes only, obviously, so, there's no lawsuits. And also, so social media doesn't take it down, for any reason, hate, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to unpack this little hottie's hot tip she's passing to you about how satanic all of this is. Okay? So where I'm going to start is, just in case you never heard of a Scofield Bible, okay? Chances are you've never heard of it, but you've seen it. You just didn't understand what it was. So before we get to, and I'm going to do it item by item by item by item, because, first off, truth is what sets you free. That's it. From the time of the ancients through Jesus, you name it, it was all just about sharing with you simple truths. But you have free will. It's always been that way. It is you who have to decide where your free will is going to take you. Nobody can decide for you except you. But see, that's why it's a battle. That's why it's a battle between good and evil, light and darkness. See, they wouldn't battle over you if, one, you didn't matter, and if, two, it was just automatic. Do you get what I'm saying? If it was one true, steadfast law, that's the way it is, boom, poof, right? That's not it. God gave you free will. Being mortal means you exercise that free will. And that is why all of this is psychological warfare, battle for your mind, because you are the cure. God gave you the ability to cure every bit of this. And so the systems fight over your thoughts and your soul. That's it. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. So where we start on your journey today, let me just give you a simple foundation, okay? I just want you to understand what a Scoville Bible is. I am not going to interrupt this. I just want you to understand what a Scoville Bible means that this young girl is talking about. Here we go.
I have here a New Scofield Reference Edition Bible. This is published by Oxford. This is an older edition. It's leather bound, little worn out on the bottom, but it's not too bad. The binding's tight. It was $4 at an MCC thrift store, and I just couldn't resist an interesting old leather bound Bible, so it came home with me. I've had it for a few months, and been thinking about what I want to say about it. Now, if you are familiar with Scofield and the Bibles bearing his name, he's a dispensationalist. He was promoting a certain theology that was very popular at one time and still has, I'm sure, many adherents. I don't hold to it, but we're not going to really talk about the notes. I don't find the notes that interesting unless you're really trying to understand that, and I personally would rather look at an original Scofield for that. What's interesting about the new Scofield is you'll see here it's Authorized King James Version with introductions, annotations, subject chain references, and such word changes in the text as will help the reader. So what that's telling us is this is a modified King James Version. It is the King James text, but In many places, they have updated the language a little bit to make it easier to read. And we're going to look at examples of that throughout, as I thought it might be helpful to those who want to know, what does it look like? So let's get started. The first couple examples I'll share come to us from the second chapter of Exodus. The first being in verse 2, we see, "And the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw him that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months." So what they do is when they change a word, they put these lines around it so that you see it was changed. And then there's a italic letter pointing to the note. It's a center column references and notes. So it's note N. So the original was goodly. He was a goodly child. They changed it to beautiful. And a little bit later in the chapter, one of my favorite verses in the King James Version, when Gershom was born, she bore him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, "I have been an alien in a foreign land." Now, if you know your KJV, you know that as stranger in a strange land, there's the originals up here, L and M. And I suppose this is probably, maybe it's a more accurate translation. I'm not sure. It certainly is more representative of modern translations, but I love stranger in a strange land. That is a phrase that has come to me many times, I think especially when I first moved away from my hometown a few years ago and was feeling very out of place in my new city. I felt like a stranger in a strange land. Interestingly now, it looked like this was from 1967. If this was being done today, we don't tend to use alien we would have probably foreigner in a foreign land. Alien today, primarily, we're thinking extraterrestrials. Next example I want to look at comes to us from Ecclesiastes. This is in the first chapter, verses 15 and 16. So in verse 15, we read, "That which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is lacking cannot be numbered." Now that's wanting in the King James Version. "And then I spoke to mine own heart, saying, Lo, I am come to great estate, and have gotten more wisdom than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge." That I spoke to, we see that as note O, and that in the King James Version is communed with. I communed with mine own heart. So, there's another example. I'd say so far, looking at these, I don't think these are bad changes. I think they read well and they fit, but, I prefer the originals. This one is interesting. This is from Job chapter 18, verse 7. It reads, "The steps of his strength shall be shortened, and his own counsel shall cast him down." And shortened, we see the King James Version is straightened. I'm not sure if that is a different meaning of the word, or, maybe a difference in how it's changed meaning over time, or if it's a correction. But I noted that if we look at the Revised Standard Version, that same verse, it also has shortened. So it agrees, the change they made agrees with the RSV. Here is Psalm 18:7. This is actually what I was trying to find when I encountered Job 18:7, but it worked out. In Psalm 18:7, we see, "Because he was angry," in the King James Version, it's wrath, not angry, right there. Look at some New Testament examples now in the Gospel of Luke. First thing you might notice is now the notes and references are in the inside and outside margins instead of a center column. I don't know why the change in the same Bible, but that's interesting. Perhaps it tells us somewhere in an introduction I didn't read. First thing I'll look at is verse 9. "Then began he to speak to the people this parable. A certain man planted a vineyard and leased it to tenants and went into a far country for a long time." So what it has there, it's leased its tenants. Originally, that is, let it forth to husbandmen. The other verse in this chapter I want to look at is verse 24. They have show me a denarius. The King James Version has penny, and what we see is that some former owner of this Bible actually found denarius a little confusing or wasn't certain, and they actually wrote coin above it to help aid their understanding. Jumping ahead a little bit to chapter 22, still in Luke, verse 27, for which is greater, he that dineth or he that serveth? Is not he that dineth? But I am among you as he that serveth. And dineth is replacing the King James Version's sitteth at meat. For some changes, they don't add a marginal note if it's not changing the meaning a lot or something to that effect. We see an example of that in John chapter 1, verse 48. It says, Nathanael saith unto him, how knowest thou me? That is not the original King James Version language. In the King James Version, here's one here, we see Nathanael saith unto him, whence knowest thou me? So that's an example of a small change that was made without really calling it out. And the last example we're going to look at is also going to come to us from John. And that is from chapter 14, verse 26. But the Comforter, who is the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name. So Spirit in the King James Version, that's ghost, which, of course, in modern translations, that's very typical that Spirit's used instead, as the word ghost kind of, I think, brings up other sorts of ideas and images for us in our current time. But yeah, I hope that helps you. I hope that gave you some sense of how the New Schofield Reference Edition reads and how it differs from a more sort of standardized King James Version. I personally would prefer to just read the KJV and just, if I run into words that I find difficult or struggle with, or something's not making sense, I compare it to another translation or check a dictionary. But I can see how it would be helpful. So I hope you found it helpful to see this. If you did, please give the video a like. And if you have anything you'd like to share, I invite you to do so in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching. God bless. And we'll see you for the next one.
Okay, very simple explanation. It's a reference Bible. It's actually used as a teaching tool. And in fact, many Bibles have variants of this. But Schofield was about, here's how it all crisscrosses. Here's what it means. Here's where you go. Here's the reference, etc. And it tells you everything it's done in the Bible. So just think of the Schofield Bible as a Bible, a thesaurus, a dictionary, maps, timelines, etc. It's why most Bibles now have the timelines in them. Before that, they didn't have timelines in them. Pop quiz! And what he was doing is he was comparing a Schofield one to the King James Version. Okay? Now, I'll just let you know, remember, part of my life after 9/11, when everything went down, is I started attending seminary classes, and because I was going to head into writing books of faith. That's where I was headed. Yes, and I have a vulgar mouth and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And let's try to stay on topic if we can. Anyway, here's your pop quiz. And we're going to talk about that Bible right there in the center. Okay? How many variants? How many variants are there across all the different Bibles and the original Greek and or Aramaic text? How many Bibles or variants are there between all of the original Aramaic and or Greek? And that's actually what I was studying. You have to learn to read and write Aramaic and Greek and study it and understand the difference between what was originally wrote and what is here. How many do you think variants there are? Put it in chat. Be interesting to know what you think, right? How many, realistically, somebody said 200, somebody said 700, somebody said 5, right? Well, here's the exact, just so you understand the exact numbers, okay? And I want you to understand, and most people don't tell you this. If you were going to go to the original Greek, some says 50, Frankie says 666. Interesting. If you were to go to the original Greek text, there are 5,800 Greek manuscripts that form the Bible. There are 10,000 different Latin manuscripts that help form the Bible. And there are 9,000 early versions, Coptic, Syriac, etc., versions of the Bible. Most of you, many times, literally have seen me in one of my numerous libraries. I'm a book hoarder, right? Book hoarder. And my largest single collection of all, into the thousands and thousands, is theology. My theology collection goes back into literally handwritten books, which I've shown you on the program many before, when they actually manually copied each thing down, handwritten, right, etc. Just so you understand, there are over 400,000 textual variants. 400,000 textual variants between the original scripts and all the different versions of the Bible. 400,000, okay? The vast majority of them are minor things like the spelling between John or using it as Johann, right? Where they simplify it to John versus Johan, Johann, which is the variant from the original one, which is Jovan. Just so you know. Okay. There are some transpositions to Christ Jesus, to Jesus Christ, but there's over 400,000 of them. Now, I only tell you that. I only tell you that. And that's in the biblical form, right? That's in the biblical form. From just the base form of what we originally got as the Bible to what started. Now that we have derivative Bibles, okay? Now that we have derivative Bibles, there are more than 1 million total variant readings or pieces in the total number of textual or traditional differences in how they were translated. And these varies from manuscripts to how they're produced to whatever the case may be. There's 10,000 plus alone in the Old Testament, if you just look at how many manuscripts there are. And if you were looking at the manuscripts in the Old Testament, 10,000 plus. If you look at how it came down to us, that's got 150,000 variants in it. If you look at the New Testament, which is really interesting, the New Testament, there's 25,000 Greek text documents that comes from. That has over 400,000 variants just in that. And then across all of them, the Latin, the Coptic, the Syriac, etc., there's 1 million plus. I just want you to understand that. There is no absolute perfect 100%, no matter what you have, true purist. It hasn't been changed in any way. I just want you to understand that, right? It is why I am such a voracious collector, consumer, archivist of these historical texts. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to unpack this little hottie's pitch or program or whatever you want to call it, okay? So now that you understand the basis of variance, let you listen to her one more time.
The Rothschilds rewrote the Bible to force-feed Zionism to Christians. In 1909, the Oxford University Press published Scofield's reference Bible, despite him having little academic training. Who was Oxford's biggest Zionist donor? The Rothschilds. This edited Bible teaches that the Jews are the chosen people to reclaim the land of Israel, despite the immense human cost. This was psychological warfare to brainwash Christians, and it indoctrinated past generations to believe a lie. Now, before I go any further, this video is strictly for entertainment purposes only and is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. So, Zionism is a satanic movement that started in 1897 when a man named Theodor Herzl claimed that he was going to find the land that God promised the Jews. But there's just one little problem with this. Theodor Herzl was an atheist. He did not even believe that God existed. So how is a man that does not believe that God even exists going to find the land that God promised to his chosen people? This man is Satan.
Okay, so we're going to kind of stop there, and I'm going to begin this unpacking for you. I'm going to take them in the order she presents them. That was just to give you a little bit of a refresher. Now I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to put this little hottie toddy up on it. I just want to let you know I am perfectly willing to personally instruct her and get her on the straight and narrow. Okay. So here's our little girl. Let's kind of listen to her pitch, and we'll go one by one. Okay, get ready.
The Rothschilds rewrote the Bible to force-feed Zionism to Christians. In 1909, the Oxford University Press published Scofield's reference Bible, despite him having little academic training.
Okay. The Rothschild family took this dude who had little academic training, and the job was to force feed Zionism to the world. And it's all a grand deception. Now, I want to let you know this is called trend surfing or trend hacking, right? Trend hijacking. You know, Rothschild, everybody, World Bank, world people, world this, world that, what that. So this is what the tactics being used. I just want you to be aware of it. But I'm going to give you the facts, and you just make up your own mind. You got it? You make up your own mind. Okay, here we go. This is Scofield, okay? The first Scofield Study Bible was published in 1909. It was revised in 1917 and is one of the most influential theological works of the early 20th century. Edited, what was that? Edited. Oh, you mean putting in all the footnotes? Putting in all the footnotes, getting it from all the sources, right? Was Cyrus Ingerson Scofield. The Scofield Reference Bible was published by Oxford University Press and became known to many as a handbook of fundamental theology. Now, from that, I just have a question for you. Did the Rothschilds or Oxford Press or this fellow Scofield rewrite the Bible? Put it in chat. I just want to see if you can go from this point. Did he rewrite the Bible? Yes or no? Did he rewrite the Bible? Yes or no? I actually have one yes and I have one no. Which is very interesting, right? Which is very interesting. The reality is he did not rewrite the Bible. That is a completely false interpretation. But let's keep on going. So what was this thing? Okay, what was this thing? Now, the uniqueness that happened, okay, just hang on. We're dealing with rewrite the Bible. I already showed you there were words that were updated. Okay, just hang on. So, number one, and somebody are saying if you add a word or remove it, you change it. You're right. But I want to let you know, we're not saying they changed it. The claim is the Rothschilds paid to have the Bible rewritten. Let me let her say it in her own words. Is that okay?
The Rothschilds rewrote the Bible to force feed Zionism to Christians.
That's what we're dealing with. And I assume as everybody adults in the room, and I understand a lot of people don't listen. But what I'm taking something that's circulating out there, and I'm just giving you the facts and letting you decide on your own, okay? So, let's stay on topic. Here's what he did, okay? He basically did comprehensive footnotes. That's the number one thing, comprehensive footnotes. The number two thing it did was topical index and cross-referencing. This is basically like a teacher's aid. This was said, but hey, if you want to find other places in the Bible that show this statement happening that somebody else wrote about it, here's where you find that as well. So what it does is it leads you to all of the connective tissues. Remember how you've probably been taught the Bible. You've been taught the Bible in one sentence at a time. And then you're subject to whoever's preaching or teaching, you're subject to their personal interpretation of what that means or what they want to say for the day. Okay? Period. That's it. Focus on what I'm talking about. You'll get a lot out of this. Therefore, Scofield realized this in this day. And Scofield was one of these people that says it's not about taking out a single sentence and then making what you want that sentence to say. Therefore, he set out to tackle that problem, that here are all the confirming other references and places in the Bible where you can see this message. That's the cross-referencing. So he was basically charged with, let's make people literally understand, right? Let's make people literally understand what this means, who all said it, how was it codified, etc. And then it added maps and charts, primarily as timelines, etc. Now, you know and I know that priests, preachers, whatever it basically, evangelists can use one sentence and tell you what it means. Now, in Scoville's time, this was a problem. It was a problem. Now, she said he has no background. I got somebody has no background in this. Right? Let me see.
In 1909, the Oxford University Press published Scofield's reference Bible, despite him having little academic training.
Oxford Press published the Scofield Bible without him basically having any academic anything. Here's his background, so you understand what his background was. In fact, yes, Oxford Press, which was the big-ass, most reputable publisher at the time, did publish, right? And she doesn't say, right? She says the Scofield Bible. It's the Scofield Reference Bible, okay? He was born in 1843 in Michigan. Now, don't hold that against him. We know how bad that state is. He served in the military. He had various careers. He was a drinker. He had a lot of problems. And down and out, he had a profound experience that converted him to Christianity, which put him on a path towards ministry and theological exploration. What he did is he dove in deep. He is the founder of Dallas Theological Seminary. Most people don't know that. Now, she says he has no basis in this. She says he has no basis at all in us. Now, basically, what was going on was you've got to understand what the Bible is, and that you've got to understand what was really being said. And you can't just take one word in a sentence or one sentence and think that you're teaching somebody the truth of God. Do you understand that? The truth of God. So now she says he has no background. It's quite the opposite. He'd even served in the United States government, right? Most people don't know that. I think he served under Ulysses S. Grant. The guy was accomplished in many ways, and in some ways he was a scoundrel and a drunk. No, he didn't go to a cave and say, God talked to me and this is the way it is, and so here's the new version. That didn't happen, right? Just a mere man. And when he basically came to his realization that God can save me and all of us, meaning him, he says, I want to know everything about it. And he found the world to be lacking, right? He found the world to be lacking. And so there was a raging debate going on across Christendom at that time. And there was kind of a little separation in it that people, pastors, were taking just a singular sentence, one singular sentence, okay? And saying, here's the sentence, this is what God ordained, this is what you must do, and here it is. Such things like dancing was bad or music was bad. That's where that stuff comes from. Literal, individual translations of what God was trying to say. That's it. And whole congregations have been created on these things. Whole branches of church have been created on these things, okay? And so what happened is many people helped bring this. Now, she said the Rothschilds did it, right? That the Rothschilds rewrote it to basically import Zionism. Okay? Well, this was a large movement. See, he only got chosen to be the editor. The editor. Okay? Because there was a lot of challenges at the time. There was just tons of challenges at the time. There were tons of issues at the time. There were tons of people using one singular sentence at a time. I mean, it was kind of a controversy, right? You would, and I'll give you a few examples. If you were looking at the King James Version, which I showed you in the video, the King James Version covers Mark 16, 9 through 20. 9 through 20. In some of the modern translations, you got to have an issue of why does the King James Version basically at Mark 16, add 9 through 20. Because when the original transcripts, the original manuscripts only go to 8. So a lot of this was raging. In the King James Bible, from what was actually there, right, was Mark, and when they chapterized it, ended at 16, 8. But in the King James Version, you have an addition of 9 through 20. Right? The earliest manuscripts have things that are totally absent, like John 7:53 or John 8:11. They're not in the original text, right? If you look at the Greek manuscripts that are before the 14th century, Greek manuscripts before the 14th century didn't have 1 John 5 through 7. Kind of interesting. Why? Do you know why Greek manuscripts had something that wasn't there? Well, they had something that was added later. What was added later in 1 John 5 through 7? The Trinity. The Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost, these three are one. So 1 John 5 through 7 was added. Anything before the 14th century never existed. Ever existed in biblical form of an actual text. You can't find those in the text. Missing from the earliest manuscripts are Acts 8:37. What is Acts 8:37? The statement, the eunuch's confession that I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, doesn't exist in any of the ancient manuscripts. Also missing in the ancient manuscripts is, if you're looking at the Lord's Prayer, Matthew 6 has the addition of Matthew 6:13 added the doxology, and the doxology, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. That's called doxology. Okay? So I want to let you know there are a lot of changes and things, and this is a war that raged on in a lot of ways, because what was going on at all of these times, you got to understand, this is where we had the Campbell Stone issue, Campbell Stone, where we get Church of Christ. I have my own family members in Church of Christ. Okay. But that started from the fires that burnt down San Francisco during the gold rush. But yet, Church of Christ followers will say, no, we were back to Pentateuch. I just want to let you know, I want you to understand there's a difference between the text. There's a difference between religion. Religion is man-made, church is man-made, faith is something completely different. All I'm doing is giving you the background based on what's going around, because she gets to more serious things, right, going on. So she tells you that this was created by the Rothschilds. Well, here's what you need to know. The Moody Press, the Bible House of Philadelphia, the American Tract Society, they all did it. So who were the actual funders? Well, let me show you the funders. Okay. Primary funders, direct contributions to make this happen, was Lyman and Milton Stewart. You would know them as the Union Oil founders. Or Arthur Tappan Pearson, who was a Presbyterian revivalist. You have William Blackstone, which was a huge financier at the time. You had the support of the First Congregational Church of Dallas. You had the backing and research of the Moody Bible Institute Network out of Chicago. And you had Henry Parsons Crowell, who was the Quaker Oats founder. You had James Campbell White, huge philanthropist in Chicago. You know him by the World's Fair, the big World's Fair, and the mapping and the creation of the beauty of the city of Chicago. And Cyrus McCormick, the international harvester heir. These are the people that funded this. Why'd she make that jump? Because she latched onto Oxford Press, who was the biggest publisher at the time. There weren't publishers setting all around the place to do really big academic books. This was an academic book, right? And it was Oxford Press, which was the most revered. Now, the claim she makes to Rothschild is because the Rothschilds were funders and contributors to Oxford. And so I would tell you, she doesn't pass, for me, she doesn't pass that Scofield didn't have a background. She doesn't pass that the Rothschild funded it. All of that is smoke and mirrors, right? Every bit of it is smoke and mirrors. But let's keep on going with the little girl and let's see what else she says.
Who was Oxford's biggest Zionist donor? The Rothschilds. This edited Bible teaches that the Jews are the chosen people to reclaim the land of Israel, despite the immense human cost.
Okay. This Bible, again, you now understand there was no changing in the Bible per se, theology-wise or anything. A lot of keyword going on here. I'm glad you recognize it. But let's kind of unpack, right? Let's kind of unpack what she's saying. This is the Bible that pushed Zionism and that Jews were the chosen people. Folks, the reason I do this is because many people will just watch this thing and suck it in, right? We'll just suck it in. So let's look at it. This is what is called the covenant, the chosen people. It's called the Abrahamic covenant. You'll find it in Genesis 12. Genesis 12. Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that that will be a blessing, and in you the families of the earth shall be blessed. Now, most people don't even understand the origin. So that's the origins of the covenant. The covenant was even further codified, right? Exodus 19, 5 through 6. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. This was what was given at Mount Sinai. This is basically where people kind of dive into the chosenness, but it was basically meant to have responsibility and an ethical mission to stay true. Further codified in Deuteronomy 2, for you are a people holy to the Lord your God, and the Lord has chosen you to be the people for his treasured possession. Okay. And that's what Scofield did. You find these things in Scofield. Most people, if you read that one, don't understand even where it's confirmed. This is basically where God, the burning bush, the 10 commandments, everything else is saying, stay true to me. There's only one true God. And I know you're saying someone tell this to Tucker. Just hang on, hear the whole thing, and it's your job because we're the cure. We're the cure. We're the cure. The cure is knowledge. So now you got the covenants, now you got the biblical stuff. And what were the errors that were involved in this? Okay. There was called the patriarchal error, right? Genesis 12:7-17, God chooses Abraham's descendant to bless the world. That's a fact. Then there was the Exodus era. Israel becomes God's kingdom of priests. That's right. Who were the only ones that could touch the Ark of the Covenant without dying? The descendants of Aaron's, the Kohanim. In modern time, Cohen. It's where that name comes from, that Jewish name. You are a Cohen, which is a direct descendant of Aaron. And that whole line was trained to be Kohanim, to be the priestly of priests. Okay? Only the Kohanim could do it. Then you have the Sinaitic covenant. That's in Deuteronomy. That's where you get into this thing called the chosen people. Okay, you're practicing this. You're going to stay true to it, and you're agreeing never to change. And then it comes through Isaiah, the prophetic reinforcement. Chosen for service, justice, light, and nations. Now, why do you need to understand this? Goes back to other teachings I gave you. If you are, in fact, a believer in Islam, Muslim, here's what you're believing. You're going all the way through the Bible, the Abraham covenant, and everything else. You're coming all the way through the life of Jesus. You believe Jesus was merely a prophet, and then pretty close to 700 years later, 700 years later, you believe that Gabriel, the angel, appeared to a guy in a cave. His name was Muhammad. And hey, Muhammad, let me tell you the real story. Here's what you need to know. So Muhammad replaces Jesus, and Muhammad becomes the one and true prophet. Now, I want you to understand that, because most people don't understand that basic piece in Christianity. Which is why Muslims say kill the infidels. It's the event that made everybody infidels. Do you not understand that? It wasn't just the Jews who have the covenant, who are the people that have been prosecuted around the world since the beginning of time for keeping the covenant exactly as the covenant exists. But then with all this stuff of Christendom, taken off like a rocket, all of a sudden a guy, right? One guy says, no, Gabriel came to me and told me the real truth. And that's where you get kill, murder, sacrifice, kill the infidels, blah, 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 blah. Shitty blah, shitty blah, shitty blah. You got to understand the context. About 700 years later. Okay? Very important. And so, you got to understand all of this when it comes to this chosen people stuff. You have to understand what it actually means. It basically means here's the Abraham covenant. It says we're going to turn these people into a kingdom of priests. As priests, you're chosen, and you're going to become an anchoring light of nations because you're going to tie all the way back. That's it. That's it. That's it. Period. So let's continue to unpack the deceptive hottie. Ready?
This was psychological warfare to brainwash Christians, and it indoctrinated past generations to believe a lie. Now, before I go any further, this video is strictly for entertainment purposes only and is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. So, Zionism is a satanic movement that started in 1897 when a man named Theodor Herzl claimed that he was going to find the land that God promised the Jews. But there's just one little problem with this. Theodor Herzl was an atheist.
Okay. So here's where she's claiming guys, share any links separate, if you would, to each other. Because what will happen is I just don't want people, and no offense, but I don't want people running off to other things in the midst of what we're trying to do from a lesson. So you can message each other and get emails, and would you do it that way, right? Okay, so you have this little girl telling you these things, that Zionism, and I'm going to go back simply because I got disfocused. If I got disfocused, you got disfocused, which is why I ask everybody not to do that, okay? So,
Zionism is a satanic movement that started in 1897 when a man named Theodor Herzl claimed that he was going to find the land that God promised the Jews. But there's just one little problem with this. Theodor Herzl was an atheist.
okay. So it came about in 1897, Zionist, that's where we get it, satanic movement by a person who was an atheist. Okay, let's discover the actual history of each of these things, and I will unpack each and every one. Zion is the word that comes from Hebrew. It appears through the Hebrew Bible and ours, and it basically meant a specific hill, Mount Zion, a literal hill. What do you think Ronald Reagan got the shining city on a hill? Okay? That's it. Where was the shining city on the hill? Where was Mount Zion? In Jerusalem. Period. And you do understand the reason we have the Wailing Wall is because the Muslims conquered Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, and kicked out the Jews. Okay? So basically, it stands for the city of Jerusalem and the land of Israel. The etymology of the word, you have to understand, just comes from fortress or stronghold, which is, if you look at the Wailing Wall and the big ass blocks that make the Wailing Wall, which was the temple, of course, it was a fortress and stronghold. Now, where it comes from is it comes from 2 Samuel's, where you kind of understand. But Zion is an ancient term of Bible terminology over 2 millennia ago. So what is she saying about 1897? What is she saying about, this guy created Zionism? Well, let's look at it. And she said 1897. And I want to show you how they're kind of picking and choosing and do this stuff. In 1890, a fellow basically coined the term Zionism. Zionism. Okay? Now, when you understand the term Zionism and what it means and how it goes through all of this, that goes down to a fellow by the name of Nathan Birnbaum in 1890. Okay? The 1890. Okay? Basically, a coin came into existence that was Zionist. Okay? The word Zion before that had only meant the entire city of Jerusalem, the land of Israel, and spiritually, the dwelling place of God. The Holy of Holies, the dwelling place of God, where all of this was to have occurred. That's what Zion was. Okay. Now, that's where all of it happened. That's it. Okay. If you were to look at Psalms 137, 1-6, by the rivers of Babylon, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her skill. So you have to understand, pre this fellow Birnbaum, and that's not the name she's saying. You'll see why she's saying it in a moment. Pre-Birnbaum coining a term, Zionism, we had Zion. Now, Zion longing, that's before a political term of Zionism. For centuries, whether you were Jewish or just religious or even Messianic, it is called in Messianic, Zion longing. Now, what does Zion longing mean? It's basically, they have this term called next year in Jerusalem. That's in the daily prayers. They work it in. And the medieval Jewish poetry has it in it, and rabbinic literature has it in it. But it's a description that only means literal homeland and a mystical divine place or idea, right? To return to where God set all of this in motion. What did the Muslims conquer when they took the temple? They razed the temple. They blocked the Jews from going in. They put up the dome, the Church of Dome of the Rock, the Golden Dome, you see, which is the mosque temple. And that is over the very stone where Abraham was going to sacrifice his son, but didn't. When the covenant came down, that's where it happened. Most people don't even understand. Don't even understand what's there and why it's so important. And why do the Jews wail at the Wailing Wall? Because that was the Jewish temple. It's where everything happened. It's where God in form set foot on earth, originally with Abraham, testing Abraham, and it changed the destiny of the world. And the Muslims conquered it in the second temple, destroyed it all to the ground, buried it. Only thing that's left is that one Wailing Wall, and they put their own mosque up over it, which is why they wanted to build a mosque at 9/11. So that's where that comes from. You got to understand where it comes from, okay? And you have to understand its context. Well, Birnbaum introduced a modern political term, Zionismus. Zionismus. That was what he introduced. And it was to self-emancipator. In his book, The Self-Emancipator, basically, he's saying you've got to really connect with what that term means and what it means to keep the covenant and what it means to want Zion. That's where it came from, okay? That's where it came from. In this, and what we're doing, folks, is this little girl says the Rothschild rewrote the Bible in favor of Zionism. And so what happened is he wrote this not to be political. Yes, the Romans destroyed the second temple, et cetera, et cetera. I got that. I'm paraphrasing for most people to understand the difference. Again, I could go into 100 fractions on this, and I'd be here for many, many hours, and I don't want to do that. Okay? Basically, what he promoted was a national rebirth of Jewish people to go back and understand their cultural and spiritual significance. Basically, after all of these years of what? The Jews being destroyed, the Jews being murdered, the Jews being killed, the Jews being run off, he was worried that Jewish people were not connecting with their roots to understand how connected they are as a people of the covenant to that exact place and time. And so that's where this thing comes from. It was nothing political. Nothing political. It was to teach about the ancestral homeland. Now, here's what she says, okay, about this fellow. She claims the person who came up with this was Theodore Herzl. Well, Theodore Herzl was not the person who came up with it. I just gave it to you, okay? And so what happened is there was a split. Get ready, pay attention, okay? And again, I'm just trying to tell you, there are so many factions, points, and pieces, right? Yes, the Romans destroyed it. The word I use is conquered. That's when you put the mosque over it. It's a sign of being permanently conquered, okay? Now, this fellow, Birnbaum, who basically said, you need to understand this other fellow that came in, Theodore Herzl, he basically said, you know what? This needs to be an establishment of legally recognized, politically autonomous Jewish homeland in Palestine. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. So Birnbaum, who created the term, walked away from this Herzog fellow because they differed. Birnbaum says you are what you are, what you are. Herzl basically said, hey, we need to make this a political move. Now, you got to ask yourself, why did she leave this out? Why did she leave it out? Because what she wants to do is focus on a particular character. She wants to focus on Theodore Herzl. Now, why does she focus on that? Now, she already focused earlier that Schofield, he wasn't even an academic. Keyword. Oh, it's genocide. Keyword. Oh, Herzl was an atheist. Well, was he an atheist? He was born in 1860 in Budapest, and he was born into an assimilated Jewish family, right? In the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Basically, as all of these countries amalgamated, right? He was born into it. Now, his family, yes, he was Jewish, but his folks were liberal and secular. Yes, he was Jewish. Fact. But the environment he was raised in is his parents were liberal and secular. They did not practice. And so what happened, he didn't have a bar mitzvah or anything, but he did, and by the way, when they say a German gymnasium, they're talking a school because it was for your brain, not your body. He came up in a flavor that was the Enlightenment rationalism or secular humanism. Do you understand what I'm saying? They basically said, you're just human, and we're in a secular world, and this is what it is. This guy was not an atheist. Exactly, it was the opposite. His actual belief is, yes, I don't observe, and I don't go to the synagogue regularly, but I'm telling you, this God thing is real. And the Judaism laws and rituals, right, are important morally, but they lost relevance to modern European Jews. Secularism. He basically always said, look, I'm a free-thinking Jew, and religion in its present form has no hold upon me, but I am profoundly conscious of our people's identity. He was not an atheist. Period. What he was a secular deist, like some of our founding fathers. Deist. Believed there was God. It was all important. He just didn't buy into the religious structure. That's it. But he says the religious nation's historical significance is paramount. He was not an atheist at all. Now, you have to understand, he always sought the alliance of rabbis and Orthodox leaders, even though he didn't observe, because he says this divine nature, this historic nature, is a nation-binding force. He didn't attack religion. He basically described it as a beautiful element of our people's unity. That's his own words. Period. Religion has lost its hold on me, yet I feel within the full Jewish conscience of my people. We shall not ask rabbis to decide on our political affairs, nor shall we permit politicians to rule over our faith. His beliefs were set. He was nominally Jewish, culturally German. His personal faith, he wasn't non-observant, right? He was a secular humanist with a cultural reverence for Judaism, right? He basically said, there is a God, I just don't know how to describe it, okay? And he basically took this to a political direction, right? He said that religion in Zionism is very valuable for unity, but don't put it in governments. He valued Judaism as a civilization and baseline, and it should not be ignored. Now, this little girl has told you he's an atheist. All we're doing is unpacking this little girl's statements.
Promised the Jews to find the claimed that a man named Theodor Herzl claimed that he was going to find the land that God promised the Jews. But there's just one little problem with this. Theodor Herzl was an atheist. He did not even believe that God existed. So how is a man that does not believe that God even exists going to find the land that God promised to his chosen people? This man is Satan in disguise. Zionism is imperialism, and it is devilish. It has gone and taken the lands of the Palestinian people, and through ethnic cleansing, terrorism, and a genocide, it has driven them out.
Okay. The Palestinian people. It has gone in and genocide and killed and done and robbed and all this other stuff. Okay, well, let's take that little bit, right? Palestine was originally a geographical or regional designation, not the name of a modern state or a nation at all. It has ancient roots that evolved through the Egyptian, Hebrew, and Greek usage for nearly 3,000 years. What is the region name if you were on the Mediterranean? You know, that little bathtub over there of water that circles North Africa, comes, you know, along Spain and that all the way to the Middle East and stuff. It's called the Mediterranean. But in biblical times, if you were describing that you were in that bathtub, what was it called? It was the what? The actual name of the water is the Mediterranean. But what was the name of the region that connected to that body of water? Do you know? Put it in chat. I've taught you this before. You should know it. It's called the ancient Levant. Levant. Most of it was called ancient Judea, but we'll get to that. It was called the ancient Levant. It basically means the region around there that touches the water. Is the Levant a state? Is the Levant a country? Are people rioting? Recognize my ancient Levant. No, it's not how it works. It's not what it is. Okay? So, let's kind of look at this. I told you it was a word in use for over 3,000 years. Palestine has always been, throughout time, for over 3,000 years, a name of a region that merely refers to the land between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River. Just like the Mediterranean is the Levant, if you want to go from the Levant and get over to the Jordan River, that region was called Palestine. And it basically included in that description Israel, West Bank and Gaza, Jordan, Western Jordan, southern areas of Lebanon, and Syria. That's it. Well, why isn't the Syrian people bringing Gazans there? They don't want them either. Well, why isn't Lebanon putting people there? They don't want them either. Because you know why? All of those countries, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, all of them, they take their most radicalized in the name of Allah and send them in to attack the Holy Land. Most people don't know that either. Jordan doesn't take them in. Lebanon doesn't take them in, because what happens is, in this rush to dominance to establish that Muhammad is the lead, right? Even the Saudis say, get the hell out of here. They have nothing to do with them because they're extremists that murder, that kill, that want to cut off heads. That's their belief system, following Muhammad, a thing that came 700 years after Christ, right? That's it. And so that's where all of this comes. That's where these own regions. Now, I want you to understand, if Jordan doesn't take them, and Saudi Arabia doesn't take them, and Lebanon doesn't take them, and Syria doesn't take them, right? And it's really just a description of an area, what's at play? You guessed it. There's only one play: to destroy the people who kept God's covenant and stood their ground for thousands of years. Because if you can break down the Jews, you can end God's covenant. If you can make the world hate Jews, two things happen. You can end God's covenant, bring it to a terminal end over the word of God, and then you can take down the United States of America, because its Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence are all built on it. So do you understand the origins? Here's the real origins. The 12th century BC is where it comes from. The inscriptions on the tombs of Pharaoh Ramesses III. Actually, what it was the area of the Philistines, the seafaring people from the Aegean region. That's the southern coast: Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. The Hebrew, right? in there was the land of the Philistines. Palestine comes from Philistia, the Philistines, which you hear in the Bible. It is a description of a region. But what happened? There were fights for this. If you go back to the Greek 5th century, we're talking 7 centuries forward, they used to call it Palestine, Syria. Why are the hell is Syria not Syria, which is a country, which is Syria? Why are those people not in Syria? Wait a minute. We were called Syria, actually. And we have a country called Syria. And we have the Syrian people. Why aren't we there? Because that's not the goal. That's not what this is about. This is about destroying Israel, cleaving people from the covenant and God, and destroying the United States of America. It's a plan. It's been battled over forever. Period. It's been battled over forever. Hadrian intentionally, in 132 through 135, the Roman Emperor Hadrian wanted to destroy Judea. The Romans, the subsequent Roman Catholic Church, wanted to destroy Judea. They wanted to erase that there truly was a holy land and that it was tied to Judea, which is where it comes from, because Judea's based in biblical truths. And that's where he renamed the entire thing Syria Palestinia. He did this as a deliberate act of cultural erasure. So there wouldn't even be a biblical tie to Judea, which was the land of the Jews. And he would basically recognize the land of the Philistines. And from that time on, Philistine, which was the official Roman provincial name of the empire, always was tied to the Crusaders and the Ottoman Empire, etc. Here was the Ottoman Empire. It was all under the control of the Ottoman Empire. Well, if it's true, why aren't they in Romania or Bulgaria or Serbia or Greece or Egypt or Iran or Iraq or Syria or any of that? Because the goal is not settlement, like they say. The goal is to destroy Israel. That's why they're not in Turkey. It has one goal: end the covenant. End the covenant by murder, by bombs, by whatever it is. End the covenant. And in taking down the covenant, you also going to get a bonus of the United States of America, right? The New Jerusalem. Because then you're going to cleave them from God, and that's it. This name swapping here has gone on for thousands of years. And it is always referred to a certain set of people there that were the heathens, the destroyers. But it never was a state. It never was a country. Right? So we have a troll, Dickhead 9, that says Christians should have nothing to do with Jews in 2025. Good. Then you can't be a Christian or an American. You want to divest yourself. I want to let you know, Dickhead number 9. I want to let you know. I think that if you want to live true to your beliefs, and I'm all for anybody wanting to live true to their beliefs, then I think What you need to do, because you see no Christians have nothing to do with Jews in 2025 or shouldn't. Let me give you an offer, dickhead. See, I think as a dickhead, you will fit in the conflict zone in the Middle East. In fact, I invite you to go live in the place where they want nothing to do with Christians. See, because you can't be a Christian, right? You can't be a Christian and not have the Jewish connection. And so, and if you really believe, and I'm all for you, dickhead. Look, you're a smart guy. You named yourself appropriately, dickhead. So I can see you can see the logic. You even know what you are. So go live in Gaza. I think it should be done. You should do this. Period. Let's go back and watch the little girl, who I truly don't think is trying to be a dickhead, but I do think she's sadly informed. I've given you the history. I want you to listen to her whole pitch now.
The Rothschilds rewrote the Bible to force-feed Zionism to Christians. In 1909, the Oxford University Press published Scofield's reference Bible, despite him having little academic training. Who was Oxford's biggest Zionist donor? The Rothschilds. This edited Bible teaches that the Jews are the chosen people to reclaim the land of Israel, despite the immense human cost. This was psychological warfare to brainwash Christians, and it indoctrinated past generations to believe a lie. Now, before I go any further, this video is strictly for entertainment purposes only and is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. So, Zionism is a satanic movement that started in 1897 when a man named Theodor Herzl claimed that he was going to find the land that God promised the Jews. But there's just one little problem with this. Theodor Herzl was an atheist. He did not even believe that God existed. So how is a man that does not believe that God even exists going to find the land that God promised to his chosen people? This man is Satan in disguise. Zionism is imperialism, and it is devilish. It has gone and taken the lands of the Palestinian people, and through ethnic cleansing, terrorism, and a genocide, it has driven them out. And through that same terrorism, and with the backing of the United States government, it maintains its power. Once you understand that the founders of Zionism did not believe in God, it makes much more sense to you that they're able to mass murder people and actually claim that God wants them to do that. Oh, and by the way, Judaism originated in Africa. The first Jews in the world were African. Why do you think that DNA tests are banned in Israel?
Oh my God. It's the Africans that are Jews, and that's where it started, in Israel's banned DNA? Boy, that throws a loop. A lot of key wearing, banned, genocide, ban. Okay. Did Israel ban DNA? No. Basically, what happens is Israel in 2000 did the genetic information law. What they were worried about is people stealing genetic information for warfare. Oh, genetic information is not valuable. Oh, yeah. Why'd 23andMe and all of it get hacked and taken? Because with weapons of war, you can genetically create weapons that target specific people. So what did Israel do? We're not going to have this. Does Israel ban genetic tests? No, it's actually incredibly important. It's used in a lot of validation, especially if you don't have your family records. Crap. Hang on. It's used for your family records and everything else. And I think I got it back. Hang on. There you go. And the reason they do this is they basically said, we're not going to have outsiders doing this. We'll approve the labs. It's got to be accredited, but you're never taking this out of control, because we of all people understand that if you can actually, literally get a hold of specific genetic profiles of a people, you can create things that will destroy and kill those people. And so Israel, understanding it's attacked from all over and it's a war, basically said, we're gonna make sure that in our country, which, by the way, is the way it should be, your genetic information, if you've done your DNA test, is out there and can be found and made public. Most people don't even realize it. All of those companies, the vast majority of them, doing DNA, right, not only goes to public databases, but there was a major hack of 23andMe looking for specific genetic markers to find those people. That hack came out of the Middle East. That hack was looking for the genetic markers associated with people with Jewish ancestry. So yeah, Israel wrote a law going, holy shit, we got to protect our people. What do these guys want to get rid of anyway? They want to get rid of God. They want to cleave from God. They want to cleave you from Israel. They can cleave you from Israel. They can cleave you from God. They can cleave you from Israel. They can cleave you from Jesus. They can cleave you from Israel. They can cleave you from the Bible. This one even tries to tell you the Bible was rewritten. You've been under a con this whole time. Do you understand how this war works yet?
By the way, Judaism originated in Africa. The first Jews in the world were African. Why do you think that DNA tests are banned in Israel? Well, surely it can't be because they don't want their citizens to realize that they're really not God's chosen people. So comment below and let me know, were you aware that the Rothschilds rewrote the Bible in 1909? And remember,
Did the Rothschilds rewrite the Bible? I've taken you through everything. Ready? Did the Rothschilds rewrite the Bible? Yes or no? Put it in chat. Did the Rothschilds rewrite the Bible? Did they hire anybody to rewrite the Bible? Did they hire anybody to push Zionism on people? Was it a big Jewish conspiracy? Was it done by an atheist to be a satanic cult to pull you away from God? The shit she did is to pull you away from God. So the bottom line is, you now have the truth, know the truth. You can dissect it. You can pull it apart. You can go wherever you want. But I basically said, you need to dig deeper, because I'm telling you, this whole thing tells you, right? When you understand what Palestine was as a region, then you got to ask yourself, why so many countries in that region won't accept people who say they're Palestinian? The lowest common denominators of their society, because they too use them as tools, as expendable people, low-level cretins, to go fight for the cause, to exterminate Israel and Jews, and to cleave people from God, and primarily to cleave people from Jesus by telling you, nope, the Muhammad was the prophet. God only spoke to him. Jesus is passé. It's all passé. And if you don't believe me, I will cut your freaking head off. Now, maybe you understand in a little better context the war, how it's done, how it's fought, how it's prosecuted. This is it. And same thing happens in politics. Oh, by the way, where did I get this video? I got this video by looking at Mike Lindell's second in command that ran all his stuff for Mike Lindell. You know, the origins of I infiltrated Antifa, and they said they were going to rig the election, comes from his page. Exposing how the Jewish people are destroying the world. And that's one of your conservative, quote unquote, position as leaders that other conservatives are now sharing and running with. It's psychological warfare, folks. That's all it is. That's all it's ever been. And my job is to bring you the truth and set you free. Please share this program.
You'll go stars are warriors.